Every man thinks he needs to impress her, to be charming, to be agreeable, to be enough. But here's the truth no one will tell you. She's not obsessed with the man who tries to win her. She's obsessed with the man she can't quite understand. He doesn't chase. He doesn't perform. He speaks in riddles, pauses like a storm. He makes her feel seen and tested in the same breath. And most importantly, he doesn't play by the rules of attraction. He rewrites them. This video is not about flirting. It's not about tricks, pickup lines, or empty confidence. It's about the psychological weapons embedded in silence, suggestion, tension, and presence. Weapons Machiavelli would whisper about if he lived today. Because real seduction isn't noise, it's strategy. Inside, you'll learn how to speak like power breathes through your voice, how to make her think about you in silence, and how to turn every word, every glance, every pause into a trigger she can't forget. This is a manual for the men who don't beg for love. They create gravity. For those who've had enough of being invisible and are ready to become unforgettable. There's a power in silence few men ever master. They fill every gap with words, explanations, proofs, compliments. They talk of future, past, dreams, fears, always filling, always explaining. But the man women obsess over, he speaks less. He lets the silence resonate. He lets tension settle between words, and in those gaps he becomes inevitable. Because when you don't rush to over-explain yourself, you force her mind to lean in. She starts listening, not just hearing. She starts decoding, wrestling with that silence in her own mind. That's when she thinks of you after you leave. That's when you echo, in her subconscious, forever. Most men think dominance lies in speaking loudly, in asserting, proving, persuading, but dominance lies in subtraction, in removing noise, in speaking just enough, then letting context, implication, and gaze fill the rest. Every time you stay silent while the room rushes to fill the void, you claim more control. You're no longer competing with words, you're setting the frame. They chase you, because your silence becomes their question. And questions demand answers, even if the answer is silence. Silence forces projection. When a man stays quiet, people project their thoughts, fears, desires onto him. Is he angry, cold, confident, dangerous? They fill in the blanks with their own stories. And those stories always elevate you, because they can't map you easily. They start constructing your meaning, your myth. And once you're mythic, you cease to exist only in her eyes. You live inside her, in her memories, in her choices. To speak less is to give the mind space, space to wander, to imagine, to replay, to loop. Every memory, every glance, every hesitation, it becomes a breadcrumb trail back to you. While others shout to be remembered, you whisper, "Notice me," and she does. Not because you forced her, but because you allowed her mind to call you. Silence isn't emptiness, it's pressure. When you stop rushing to fill the space begins to work for you. Your breath slows, your gaze steadies, your posture settles like a mountain. This steadiness becomes a signal to her nervous system. This man is grounded. Grounded men regulate the room. They soften chaos. They create order without commands. And a woman's body trusts order far more than clever lines. So you don't push, you anchor. You let the room sink to your rhythm. In that rhythm, your pauses become punctuation. Your eyes become subtext. Your presence becomes meaning. This is how you turn a simple hello into an atmosphere. Not through talk, but through gravity. Most men seek attention with volume. Powerful men create attention with contrast. Speak softer than the noise around you, and watch how quickly she leans in. Let a sentence trail off, and let your eyes finish it. Pause on a word that matters, then hold it in the air like a secret only she can hear. Contrast is the composer of tension. Tension is the architect of desire. If you remove all contrast, you remove all charge. So vary tempo, weight, and distance, slow then still, close then lean back, warm then cool. You are not performing. You are sculpting electricity between two nervous systems. Silence also filters. The ones who need constant noise to feel safe disqualify themselves. The woman who can breathe with you in stillness, she's the one whose depth can meet yours. So you don't rush to relieve her discomfort. You let her meet it. Because comfort given too soon kills polarity. Let her feel the edge of the pause. Let her feel your steadiness inside it. When she exhales and relaxes into the quiet, attraction upgrades into trust. And trust is the currency of surrender. Plant questions, don't dump answers. Instead of explaining who you are, leave lines that pull on her imagination. I don't stay long where the music is fake. I like people who can argue beautifully. I leave when I stop learning. Each line is a door, not a definition. She will open the door later, alone, replaying you in the quiet of her room. Obsession is born in solitude, not in the moment. You are giving her something to carry, something to solve, something to feel without you present. Your voice is not just sound, it's architecture. Shape it. Drop it lower on key words. Let breath touch the consonants. End sentences down, not up. Certainty, not seeking. Avoid rushing the last two words. Let them land like a stamp. The body hears confidence before the mind understands it. And when her body registers your steadiness, her mind begins to rationalize desire as safety. Safety opens doors logic cannot. Eye contact is not a stare, it's a rope. You don't glare, you invite. Hold the gaze just past comfortable, then release first with a small knowing smile. What you're signaling is control over your own arousal cycle. You can engage and you can let go. This self-regulation is rare and intoxicating. She feels seen without being consumed, desired without being chased. In that paradox, attraction becomes clean, magnetic without neediness. If she tests you, don't repair the mood, redefine it. When she throws a small barb, let it pass through the net of your calm and redirect, maybe, I like your honesty. What do you do when someone doesn't give you what you want? You neither defend nor attack, you convert. Now she is inside your frame, following your question, walking your path. Leadership in conversation is not louder steering, it is quieter gravity. Never race to prove value. Value radiates from standards, not speeches. Show standards by what you allow, what you withhold, and what you walk away from. Compliment slowly, approve rarely, share selectively. Let her work for your certainty the way men usually work for hers. This inversion flips the entire dynamic. Now attention is earned, not assumed, and what is earned is cherished. Give her a future feeling without future promises. Describe moments, not commitments. A bookshop at midnight, 2 coffees, no plan. With the right person, rainy cities become concerts. These images bypass logic and bathe the subconscious in possibility. She isn't agreeing to a plan. She's agreeing to a feeling, one only you seem to carry. Now your presence equals access to that feeling, and access is addictive. Remember, obsession is not built in one perfect conversation. It's built in calibrated contrast across time. Presence and absence, warmth and coolness, clarity and mystery. You appear, you resonate, you disappear. You leave a question, then another. You let her mind do the heavy lifting, because what she builds in her own imagination binds her more tightly than anything you could ever force. That is the silent art. That is part 1. Words fade, but feelings echo. That's why most men are forgotten, because they talk to be heard, not to be felt. They chase the moment, trying to entertain, impress, or fill silence. But the man who lingers in her mind long after he's gone doesn't speak for reaction. He speaks to plant. He plants emotional anchors, short, vivid, symbolic ideas that hook into her nervous system. Ideas she can't shake, images she replays, questions that echo when the lights go out. Not because he said a lot, but because he said one thing that bent her frame. Here's what most men miss. If your words don't make her feel something after you're gone, they never mattered. A forgettable man fills the moment. An unforgettable one cracks her perspective. This doesn't mean shocking her. It means disrupting the script she lives in every day. You say something that shakes the pattern, just slightly. Like, do you ever feel like most people are just pretending to be alive? I don't trust people who smile too quickly. I like women who don't need the room to like them. Each line is a wedge in the frame. You don't push it, you let it rest there unresolved. She doesn't argue, she reflects. And that reflection creates emotional echo. It means you're not just another voice, you become her internal narrator. Later, when she's brushing her teeth, when she's driving home, your words return, uninvited, unshakable. This is how you stop being a moment and start being a presence. Anchors aren't logic, they're scent. You can't explain them, you feel them. And that's why they bypass resistance. Because they're not trying to be agreed with. They're just there, floating in her subconscious, bending the emotional landscape. So she starts associating you with depth, mystery, meaning, not because you lectured, but because you left space. You said something and didn't tie it up. You gave her the gift of mental pursuit. Use metaphors. Metaphors bypass defense. They enter the nervous system sideways. Say, she's like fire, beautiful, but burns anyone who gets too close. I'm like a tide. I disappear to come back stronger. Some people feel like winter, sharp, still necessary. These aren't descriptions, they're seed hooks. Hooks that catch her thoughts when you're not around. Hooks that vibrate when she's not expecting. Hooks that linger in her chest and make her miss you before she understands why. Let her finish the sentence in her head. You don't say, I find you attractive. You say, there's something about the way you look at people, like you've already figured them out. You don't say, I want to see you again. You say, I have a feeling this story isn't finished yet. This leaves the door half open. And in the world of attraction, a half-open door is more powerful than one thrown wide open. It lets her imagination step in. And imagination is the stage where obsession is born. Most men want to be remembered. But powerful men understand, you don't get remembered by trying, you get remembered by being the interruption. The pause in the noise, the frame that doesn't match the others. Anchors interrupt, they don't make sense logically. They make sensation. That's why she dreams of the man who spoke in metaphors. That's why she replays the look in his eyes when he said nothing at all. Never seek to impress, seek to imprint. Impressions are forgotten. Imprints remain. You imprint by speaking to the depth of her. Not the surface, not the social mask, not the ego craving likes and laughter, but the part of her that still wonders what it means to be seen. The part that hasn't been reached by the noise. The part she guards and secretly wants to reveal. Speak to that. Say something she hasn't heard before about her. Not flattery, recognition, like, you seem like someone who feels everything 5 seconds before everyone else does. You have that kind of silence that makes other people nervous. You smile like a person who's been hurt but never broken. If you see something no one else sees, say it, not with a smirk, but with reverence. And in that moment, you're no longer flirting. You're reflecting her back to herself. That reflection, it creates dissonance, it lingers. It forces her to reevaluate herself through your lens. And if she accepts that lens, you've already entered her story. You are no longer just a chapter, you are the author, and obsession. Obsession belongs to the one who shapes the meaning. So speak less. But when you speak, don't aim to be impressive. Aim to leave residue. A thought she can't file away, a metaphor she keeps coming back to. A question that creates silence long after the conversation is over, that is an anchor, and that is part 2. In every conversation there are 2 frames, the one who leads and the one who follows. Most men don't realize this. They step into her frame, trying to impress, adapt, respond, explain. And in doing so, they lose the one thing women respond to more than words: command of energy. When you enter her world but keep your own rules, you become a paradox. Unshakable but engaged, present but detached, warm but unaffected. This contrast confuses the predictable map she's used to. And in confusion, influence takes root. Frame is not force. Frame is stillness. You don't need to argue, prove, or dominate. You simply hold way. When she teases you, you smile. When she challenges, you redirect. When she tests, you don't flinch. You stay grounded. Not because you're trying to win, but because you've already won by not reacting. Machiavelli taught that rulers must appear flexible, but never truly bend. The same applies here. You appear open, listening, laughing, engaging. But beneath it all, your core is untouched. Your values aren't on the table. Your mission doesn't detour for approval. That energy, it rewrites the room. The man who controls the frame controls the conversation. He decides what matters, what to ignore, what deserves attention. And by doing that, he becomes the center of gravity. Not because he demands it, because he is it. Here's the secret. Frame control isn't about being dominant. It's about being unshakable. Most men try to prove they're right, but the man with power doesn't prove. He observes. He lets others burn energy. He watches reactions. He speaks last. Because when you own the frame, the room moves around you. You'll know you're controlling the frame when the conversation starts orbiting around your perspective. She asks you what you think. She reacts to your tone. She adjusts her body language without realizing it. And most importantly, she starts trying to read you. When a woman shifts from expressing herself to trying to understand you, the dynamic has flipped. Now she's inside your story. Now she's adjusting to your gravity, not because you demanded respect, but because you embodied it. You didn't speak loudly, you didn't interrupt, you didn't try to prove, you simply stayed rooted. And roots always outlast wind. Most men get shaken by resistance. A teasing comment, a test, a challenge, and in seconds, they fold. They apologize, they try harder, they try to smooth things over. But all that does is prove that their frame was never real. A strong frame doesn't panic when pushed. It doesn't collapse when questioned. It expands. It welcomes challenge. Because it knows true presence isn't fragile. It's forged in fire. Women test because they crave stability. And the man who welcomes the test without needing to win it, that man becomes unforgettable. Frame control also means you decide what game is being played. If she plays sarcasm, you don't fight sarcasm, you switch the rules. If she tries to provoke, you redirect, not react. If she mocks intensity, you double down in silence. She says, "You're a little intense, aren't you?" You smile and say, "I prefer depth," but that's not for everyone. No defense, no need to explain, just unshakable clarity. In that moment, you're not following her emotional energy, you're creating your own. And that is the power few men ever access. The power of becoming the storm, not the leaf. Remember, frame is never loud. It's the quiet confidence that bends the air. It's the stillness that makes her question her certainty. It's the eye contact that doesn't blink, the silence that doesn't fill, the answer that doesn't defend. When you own the frame, you become the one she's trying to calibrate to. You're not reacting to her test, she's reacting to your standard, and that, my friend, is conversational power. That is frame control. That is part 3. The human mind hates uncertainty. It wants to label, categorize, resolve. It seeks closure like an addiction. But here's the paradox. What we can't fully understand owns us. What stays unresolved lives longer in memory. What remains ambiguous becomes powerful. This is why mystery seduces more than beauty. Why a man who says less leaves a louder echo. Why the one she can't read rewrites her internal script. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He warned, "Never reveal your whole hand." Power belongs to the man who can cloak clarity in curiosity. To suggest but never expose. To point but never arrive. To imply but never explain. This is not deception. It's design. You are shaping her experience of you, not through facts but through tension, through anticipation, through emotional suggestion. When you tell her everything, she stops imagining. And when imagination dies, so does fascination. But when you say, "There's a side of me you'd probably love, and a side you might run from," or "I only open up to people who can sit with silence," you don't just speak, you plant a puzzle, you awaken a chase, you give her something to unlock. And humans, especially women, fall in love with what they had to work to understand. Suggestion is the language of the subconscious. It speaks in tones, pauses, glances, not declarations. It's why a slight smirk can arouse more than a compliment. Why a soft maybe lands deeper than a loud yes. When you speak, she's not just hearing your words. She's absorbing your energy, your rhythm, your unpredictability. That unpredictability triggers a primal circuit in the brain. The more uncertain the reward, the more addictive the pursuit. This is how casinos work. This is how attention works. This is how seduction works. But here's where most men fail. They try to create mystery by being vague, distant, or unavailable. But that's not mystery, that's avoidance. Real mystery isn't about hiding. It's about revealing, strategically, showing her glimpses, never the full view, offering depth, without handing her the map. A single sentence with tension is more attractive than a whole biography with no contrast. You must become the man she feels she's almost figured out, but never fully. Mystery also lives in contrast, warm one moment, stoic the next, laughing freely, then observing silently, available, but not reachable. This contrast creates tension. Tension creates emotional arousal. And emotional arousal, even if it's confusion, binds people. It's why villains are often more captivating than heroes, because they break the pattern, they create contrast, they leave a trail of questions instead of answers. When you become predictable, she relaxes, and relaxation kills seduction. But when she's always a little unsure, always leaning forward, always wondering what you're really thinking, now she's emotionally invested. She doesn't choose to be. It happens neurologically. Her brain releases more dopamine chasing meaning than receiving it. So don't hand her your entire mind. Let her work for it. Let her build it in her imagination. And her own creation of you will be stronger than anything you could have said. The world teaches you to earn, work hard, be honest, wait your turn. But here's what they never say. Predators don't earn, they take. They don't ask. They identify weakness and move. And that's not cruelty, it's clarity. It's because when you believe wealth is earned by effort, you put yourself at the mercy of a system that rewards control, not sacrifice. You think you're climbing, but you're feeding the top. Meanwhile, the predator waits. He doesn't rush, he doesn't plead. He builds position. He studies the patterns. Then when opportunity shows weakness, he strikes, not with emotion, with precision. Look at history. The richest weren't the hardest working. They were the most strategic. Land barons, oil tycoons, tech billionaires. They didn't trade hours. They built machines, systems, networks. They built empires by mastering one truth. Power is not given. It is taken. The average man follows rules. The predator rewrites them. The average man waits for permission. The predator acts and apologizes later, if ever. He moves through the world like a ghost with teeth, and this is what makes him dangerous. Because no one sees him coming until it's too late. To live like a predator, you must kill your addiction to fairness. The world isn't fair, it's hierarchical. The strong leverage the weak. The unseen feed the visible. The emotional serve the calculating. If you want to stop being food, you must study how predators think. They don't move impulsively. They don't play by emotion. They conserve energy. They strike when the odds are stacked in their favor. They let the prey exhaust itself with noise, emotion, movement, then take. This isn't about malice. It's about survival. It's not immoral. It's amoral. And once you understand that, you start seeing through the game. The predator mindset requires detachment. Detachment from identity, from validation, from needing to be seen as good, because good is a performance. A costume society rewards to keep you docile. But beneath that costume, men are starving, working jobs they hate, loving women who don't respect them, obeying rules that keep them small, and calling it the right thing. The predator tears that costume off. He doesn't want to be good. He wants to be sovereign, not loved, respected, not accepted, obeyed, not recognized, unignorable. You don't get there by playing the same game. You get there by shifting the game. You move differently. You listen more than you speak. You make people prove themselves to you, not the other way around. Women chase mystery. Business rewards leverage. Power bends to patience. And all of it starts when you stop trying to be earned and start becoming the man who takes. Taking isn't theft. It's claiming what weak men hesitate to touch. It's rising above apology. It's living in such a way that people feel lucky to even access you. That's the predator's way. That's the exit from average. Now you've seen the truth. Not the version fed to you by media, school, or society, but the hidden script, the real one, where silence is power, mystery is leverage, suggestion is control, presence is dominance, and detachment is freedom. The average man will hear this and feel discomfort. He'll retreat. Go back to the safe world of smiles, routines, and slow death. But not you. You're still here, which means something inside you recognized the mirror. This video was not entertainment. It was initiation. into a darker, deeper, sharper way of being, a way that few ever walk. But those who do, rule. Now go. Don't speak about this. Live it. Silently, powerfully, unforgettably. The predator doesn't announce himself. He arrives, and everything changes. Welcome to the Brotherhood. You're no longer prey. You're the game.